The number.
We have a lot going on.
Yeah, so moving forward is a quote for an inverter with battery charger, a Vanner 1050 watt inverter. The cost being $1,675.31. We do have Chief Robbins here with us, and I'll let Chief present. So you can see it's different. So would you like to discuss the
idea behind the inverters is that is the power module that provides power to the receptacles in the rear of the ambulance. They were not purchased with the ambulances, as those purchases plus with the graphics would put us over budget with those. We've been operating about a year without them almost now, and I would like to purchase at least one to put in the Bravo 1 unit, which is the one that is mostly used for transports in the area. The reason for that is to provide ancillary medical equipment with power that's normally battery powered once we remove it from a facility, such as IV pumps, boom backs, things of that nature. As it stands right now, we transport patients that has any of those things that we are allowed to maintain. We don't have the power in the back unit to provide power to those. The barter unit that Supervisor Skibby alluded to is the industry standard. If you were to look in most any of the ambulances, that is the type and branding. You don't know if you'll find what you provided with it. And that purchase would be from a corporation called fixmyambulance.com, which is where I was given that lead by Chief Forbush from the City Fire. That's where he gets a lot of his equipment from for the ambulances. So,
are there any questions for Chief in regards to this request?
This is for external use?
Internal use.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you were to jump up in the back of the ambulance right now, you'd see an array of different receptacles throughout the back, which basically right now we're powerless without that inverter. So. And the intention is, because I know somebody's going to ask, and I'm sorry, we just got back from the grass fire. I don't have the budget in front of me, but there's two choice line items to take that out of. One is EMS operational equipment or medical operational equipment. The other one would be vehicle maintenance.
I don't see why this is maintenance, but
Yeah, I would say
Operational equipment.
I would say EMS.
I would say at this point in time, and you'd be fine, obviously, because we also have more business coming. So if we move forward with one unit for installation, at this point in time, I'd entertain a motion to move forward with the expenditure to be placed in Bravo 1 to come out of medical, which was the GL?
EMS operational.
EMS operational service GL. Is there a motion to such effect?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion by Laura. Is there support?
I'll support it.
Supported by Michelle. Any further discussion?
And how much was the amount?
$1,675.31. Just over his expenditure allowance. Any other discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Kroll,
Yes.
Trustee Dunkel,
Yes.
Trustee Polly,
Yes.
Trustee Lappin,
Yes.
Clerk Palovich, yes. Treasurer Ellery Summers,
Yes.
Supervisor Skibby.
Yes. Moving forward, Chief, we tried to actually get into this part of the conversation when the last time you got called out on a call. Please address the board and all in attendance as to the request for bid on a sheriff's vehicle.
Right, the sheriff has purchased a new vehicle, and with the advent of losing actually Chad can probably throw in here, not the advent of losing the contract out of the airport, they put several vehicles up for bid. The one that we're interested in as a department in particular is Sheriff Kalashevsky's Tahoe. It is no longer in use. That is up for bid. I went and looked at it, spoke to him the other day, and the first thing he said is he wishes he knew we would have wanted it before it went out for bid, but that's water under the bridge. Anyway, it's a two-wheel drive Tahoe. It has a 5.3-liter engine. Sheriff does not have a reputation for doing those vehicles very hard that I'm aware of. It has a little over 100,000 miles on it. My wish would be to be able to bid on that vehicle, and if we were to secure it, I would like to turn it into basically what we refer to it as a Tango unit, which would be similar to the city's Echo units, only it would be at a basic life support level. The advanced life support ones are referred to differently. Ours would be their Echoes. Ours would be a Tango. I'd like to outfit it with some EMS gear. The idea behind that would be while we're out and about today, or I am with it day to day, to be able to respond to a number of the EMS calls and maybe take some of the stress off of the engines. Right now, just to remind you, by law, as BLS responsive units, we are required to send in ambulance, EMT, and MFR. Reported EMS call, and if the ambulances are not available, we'll take the engines. I was hoping with the availability of that unit and licensing it as a Tango unit. For example, as I was out doing inspections during the day or any other day-to-day activities, if the call dropped, to be able to respond to that, have the engine stay back in-house, and keep some miles off of them. We did some research on it, and as it sits right now, believe the value of it to be between. I'm sorry, I don't have the paperwork in front of me, but I believe it was, depending on the shape of the vehicle, upwards of $2,000 to $2,500.
How much?
$2,000 to $2,500.
Okay.
You got any input on that, Cash?
I'm sure it's not in bad shape. The only thing I know is there was a little bit of rust that's starting along the bottom, but that's about all I know about it.
Yeah, we looked at it. The rust that we found at this point is surface rust. It's not like it's been all the way through the fender. I took, just so you guys know, I took Matt Plumchuk with me down there because he and his dad do body work on the site, because I wanted his advice on that, because I did notice that. He said it didn't look like it would be anything too hard to repair.
Dave, Laura has a question.
So let's just say we decide to purchase this. How much is it going to cost to equip it with EMS gear? I mean, how much are we investing into this?
Other than the original purchase, my hope was to take, if you recall, we had 4 Bravo units, and when the 2 new ones were purchased, we dropped down to 3, and that extra gear is still stored on site here. The equipment requirement for a Tango unit is somewhat a little bit less than a Bravo unit. So I would hope not to have a huge cash outlay on a lot of brand new equipment. I would take the equipment that came off one of the old Bravos, such as the medic kits, the O2 kits, burn kits, beach kits. So,
Hey, Dave.
yes.
Dave, why would we want a 2-wheel drive pickup vehicle? Winter-wise, that's going to be, that utility is going to be pretty low if it's of any snow out.
Yeah, that's kind of you don't see a lot of them up here. That's for sure. But that just happened to be what was available. I certainly wouldn't eschew a 4-wheel drive if the opportunity came up. But my plan would be to keep it on road anyway, not to do too much stump jumping with it.
Which vehicle are you talking about? Is that number 4?
Yes.
I guess
Sorry, could you just give me the basic?
Go ahead, Matt.
Hello?
He wants the basics.
Yeah, sorry. That's the 5.3 liter, that's the V8, is that right?
Right.
5.3 is the V8.
Yeah, my understanding is that in the patrol vehicle configuration, that is the 5.3 liter V8.
Are you going to tow with it?
No, we don't intend to.
Okay. That would be the only, I don't know about gas mileage and all that, but that would be one of the advantages, I think, of having the V8. But sounds good to me. I trust your judgment.
How much would you bid on it?
Yeah, that's. My question was going to be even more generic. Where are we going to store it?
Oh.
And what should we bid on it? I guess twofold. We can hit 2.
Well, the 2 trains of thought on the bidder is to bid exactly what we think it's worth. The other one would be if you want to try to be sure you're going to get it, it's at a couple hundred, which puts it somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000. I would feel comfortable bidding what the Blue Books and Kelly's say that it's worth, and we either get it or we don't. I don't really support the throwing a couple hundred extra bucks at it just to, and as far as storing it, we do have the empty bay at the south side station now that the tanker's been moved. There is one empty bay down there.
Yeah, we need something to fill there.
One of my concerns is that it is a 2005, and I just don't want it to end up being a money pit, and that, yeah, we get a deal on it, but then we have to, put this into it and that into it.
But 100,000 miles on a 2005
That's nothing.
is really nothing.
We just dealt with ambulances, had all kinds of costs that also had some future costs. We've got older vehicles. I don't see where we need another older vehicle at this point.
How often are both ambulances gone right now? How often would you need this third vehicle to be able to go out? How often does that happen?
Yeah, it's a little bit, just so I can go back and revisit that. The idea isn't to relieve the load on the ambulances so much as to relieve the load on the engines The line of thought there is, you know, we love our engines and try to take care of them, but when you start running them out on every EMS call, that's just not what they're designed for. They're designed for frontline attack, for fire, and, you know, running them around the neighborhood. My thought process is to keep the miles, keep the guys from responding in the engines, because in that instance, there needs a transport to get to the scene, and, you know, $500,000.
But how often does that happen? Does it happen once a month, once a week, every 6 months? I mean, how often does an engine blow where this vehicle could be?
Right now, I think probably, unfortunately, too many times because of
I was just curious.
travel units being tied up.
I honestly don't have a hard number for you, Laura, but
I just wondered.
I do know that it happens, in my opinion, frequently. And actually, we not to lead into the next one, that we had a case in last week where we had 2 ambulances out and turned down a run, and that came up and bite us in the butt. So we'll get into later. But no, in my thought, I agree. I don't want to see another money pit either. But I kind of have a choice between pitching this one to you, where I know I can't say I know the intimate details of the vehicle, but I know, and again, Cash can keep me between the white lines, that my impression is that as far as preventive maintenance and such, the sheriff department took good care of that vehicle. And I'm actually not afraid to bid on it. Some of the other ones that are set to be cited, now that's a different story. I totally agree, because I went and looked at those, and a couple of those were rode hard and put away that way. So, but yeah.
What are you thinking on a bid, Dave?
2,500.
How much? Okay, so I just went on cars.com. I love doing that stuff. So 147 miles away from us. 2005 with 44,000 miles on it. The guy's asking 2,000. It's a private seller. It looks good. So I think you can, you know, I don't know, 2,500, 2,000. It's pretty close. But I'm just saying you can, a little bit of research and you can do pretty well. Why this particular vehicle?
Well, because it so happened it became available in the community, and I know it was a well, but I'm open to suggestions. He certainly doesn't.
What's your email? I'll send you this link. What's your email?
It's last name, first initial, Robbins D at alpinatownship.com.
Okay.
The bids are due by May 13th.
Which, I mean, we have a couple different trains of thought. We can allow a bid. Cash, could you? I'm looking at the paperwork affiliated with this. It does not stipulate highest bidder wins a sealed bid either. Normally, that's pretty standard text in a sealed bid, either highest or lowest. What are your thoughts, Cash, since you saw this daily?
You know, the sheriff drove it, so it wasn't going on calls. The maintenance is always, everything is kept up to date. Anytime there's a repair, it gets fixed. You know, I don't think it hurts to try it if we're interested. I mean, but, you know, the 2-wheel drive is just, I mean, you can go through almost as much as, you know, the 4-wheel drive, that's a lot of wear and tear when you're driving around a 4-wheel drive versus a 2-wheel drive. So I'm sure it's not in bad shape, you know. I mean, if you get it, you get it. If you don't, then you move on, you know.
So, Cash, you're recommending what kind of a bid?
Well, I would probably just do the minimum.
2,500?
No, 1,000.
1,000.
at least.
Oh, 1,000 is the minimum bid?
Yes.
No, whatever that one's, what did they say, 20? I thought it was at 2 or,
No, it's just minimum.
The minimum bid on this vehicle is $1,000.
Okay. Hey, I have no problem with that, but I wouldn't go much more than 2,000. I mean, you
Or
can
2,000.
do between 2 on that vehicle that you can do better on miles at 22. If you think it's on the other hand, if you think it's a good vehicle because you know its history, that's worth something too. So, yeah, I don't have any problem putting a bid in for 1,000 if we need it.
Do you have money,
or
Dave?
do the $2,000 or,
You want to throw 2? Try.
I would be comfortable with that.
Do you have money in a line item for it?
Well, and actually, that's a question I'd have for you guys is would I necessarily have to transfer some money out of one of my better funded line items into a vehicle purchase line item? So that we're not crossing any lines?
Yes.
Could we use some of the money from that millage for buying equipment for
That
this?
would fall
Because-
under equipment.
I don't think with this year's purchase, I don't think we used it all when we paid that second ambulance off.
Okay.
There may be some money there.
And that would fall under equipment.
Okay.
That would
So
fall under that.
at this point in time, I would entertain a motion to move forward with allowing a $2,000 sealed bid to the county for the March 13th. I think it's March 13th has to be in. May 13th, I do apologize. I'd entertain a motion to make a $2,000 bid on the potential purchase of a Tahoe to become a Tango unit. Is there a motion to such effect?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion on the table by Clerk Palovich to make a $2,000 bid for the procurement of the old sheriff's Tahoe. Is there support?
I'll support.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any other discussion?
An old vehicle.
What was that, Trustee Lappin?
I'm sorry, it is a vehicle that is crowding 20 years old.
Noted.
Well, listen, if the bid fails at 2,000, I'll buy it for 1,700.
Well,
The problem,
go ahead.
the problem is too, like Dave said, if we have an engine that costs way more money, and if that's going out on these calls,
Well,
I hate to see the wear and tear on the engine.
we're also going to be talking about even a bigger issue coming up next, which is going to be a swing. Don't get me wrong. This Tango theory is something I presented before we even purchased the 2 ambulances because of its cost effectiveness, and per our licensure, we would be willing and able to respond by a Tango unit or something of the like. But here we are today. We have 2 new ambulances, and we're also looking to procure a Tango unit that is knocking on the door of 20 years old. So we have a motion and we have support on the table to move forward with a $2,000 sealed bid. And I guess a roll call vote will make the determination of which direction this board wants to go.
Discussion.
Yes.
Would the intent of this also be to put a cot in there and all of that? I mean,
No, we wouldn't be able to put a cot and transport in it. It would hold the equipment very similar to one of the BLS angles, but because of the downside. I don't know, I would ask you if you've ever seen any of the Echo units that the city has put on the road.
It's like a Suburban formulated.
There is a required equipment list that the state of Michigan is to have licenses as a BLS first responder unit.
Any other discussion before we go to a roll call vote? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Dunkel,
No.
Trustee Polly,
No.
Trustee Lappin,
No,
Clerk Palovich, yes. Treasurer Ellery Summers,
No.
Trustee Kroll,
Yes.
Supervisor Skibby.
No, I think we can actually find a better deal in a newer vehicle, but I think that the direction has been introduced by this board, and we can follow Trustee Dunkel's advice and get online and start looking at other options available. Moving forward to a recommendation that was brought forward by Chief Robbins. And if you want, I can, I believe it had been forwarded to trustees, but do either of you have, would you just, do you want to read it or oh, you have it. Chief Robbins has the recommendation, and I'm going to let him read his recommendation to the board.
What precipitates this is a meeting that Supervisor Skibby and I had with Mid-Michigan Hospital today. The president, Chuck Sherwin, and the
Deb Pokershinsky and medical control. Jake Kamishek. Just to give you some background on what happened last week, the hospital, the emergency room contacted the department to take a patient from the emergency room back to Meadow Lodge on Long Rapids Road. And during our usual and customary questioning, the officer inquired if they thought this patient had had any COVID contact, and they indeed commented that the patient had been tested and was COVID positive. And in the background of this, we already had 2 of our 3 ambulances out on runs already. The officer turned down the transport, but also had made a comment about because the patient was COVID, not just the fact that we didn't have vehicles and staff available. The nurse was fairly irate and promptly turned us into medical control, and that's why we had the meeting today. Basically, I'll paraphrase. I'll let Supervisor Skibby add any comment or narrative he had that I felt that was just a wee bit confrontational, and that our license was threatened. The way I understood the outcome of the meeting is we would either take the transports that they wanted us to take, or our license would be in jeopardy because we can't pick and choose. So I had some questions as to what was confusing me is the direction as a chief I received from the state of Michigan as far as emergency protocol during the COVID, is that my personnel during the medical first response call, unless it's life-threatening emergency, like a CPR in progress or something like that, my people are not even allowed to go in the house. They have to stand outside and wait for the transporting unit to show up. And then at the same time, we're being told, yeah, when they get to the hospital and they're confirmed COVID, you can just put them in the back and transport them. So anyway, as that story unfolded, the letter I wrote, you guys have a copy, says in consideration of the information taken from the conference call today with Mid-Michigan Health,
I made the decision to scale back our non-emergent transport services. Firstly, the fire department is, the full-time staff is down to 2 full-time officers at this time, which is 1/3 of my full-time workforce. And secondly, with the advent of the current lockdown, what I've tried to do is compensate manpower to staff. So what we've been doing, I call it a staff up during the day within certain parameters. So we've asked some on-call and sometimes the full-timers to fill in during the day, so that if a run did arise, we were sending the unit out with 2 personnel and people weren't responding from home to a possible COVID exposure. Try to keep them in sorts. Continuing on with that, keep paid on-call personnel to a minimum for their protection. I feel this has brought us to a point of financial culpability that may have a negative effect on the department and township as a whole. I am recommending to the board that Mid-Michigan be advised that until our staffing has returned to normal and the lockdown has been lifted, that we either be moved down or removed from, they have a call list, the call list for BLS, non-emergent transports. We certainly can revisit this in 30 days and 60 days. I recommended 60. And that is my recommendation to the board that I look at this notified them. I think this also would give something that was kind of lost in translation was the motion by the board back in February aimed at April 1st. And certainly before any of that could take place or come to fruition, COVID popped up on the radar and everybody just kind of got pushed out of the way. But this also could give us, I think, a chance to get the, if you want to call it forensic audit or whatever, done with the EMS services to see how viable it is. Give us a chance to regroup, get my people healthy, and maybe help delay some further staffing problems down the road. So, do you guys have any questions or comments?
So the 60 days is just, what do you see that as sort of a cooling off period for not only possibly COVID, but
And I can actually, this goes to the conversation that took place. And I guess I would actually say that my recollection of that conversation was very confrontational and threatening to us as a municipality as to, you will do these transfers. If you do not, then we're going to go after your license. But the caveat given was if you want to be removed from the list for 30, 60, or 90 days, we'll give that consideration before we look at removing your license. So those were the numbers, the 30, the 60, and the 90 were on the offering plate from Mid-Michigan, if you will. I agree with Dave that, we're operating, and our fire department has operated under all legal statutes and executive orders and directions of not only the health department, but the CDC. And it was slightly disturbing, the exaggerated miscommunication and the direction given by our healthcare provider of Mid-Michigan. So it was an unfortunate reality. But as Chief stated, we are down 33% staff. And there was no explanation given of why a COVID patient that was positive would be leaving a healthcare facility back to a senior facility. There was no clarification, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, as to the standards that we're operating under and the contradictions that were offered. I think, I know that I walked away from that conversation extremely frustrated. And we need to listen to our fire department, support our fire department and our employees, because we should only care what's best for our employees and our community. And we shouldn't be the last option and the first option as a BLS transfer organization to be forced to take transfers that we're not capable of taking.
Well, absolutely. No,
Trustee Polly, do you have a comment?
This board ready for a motion?
Is there any other conversation or questions for Chief?
I'd like to make a motion.
Then proceed, Trustee Polly.
I'd like to make a motion that we follow on interim chief's recommendation that we do what he reported on and for the 60 days and revisit it at that time.
We have a motion on the table to follow the recommendation of Chief Robbins to step away from the transfer business for 60 days. Is there support?
I'll support that.
Been supported by Dunkel. Any other discussion? I guess at this point in time, Dave, I will draft an email of this evening's events, CCU, and send it to everybody that participated in the meeting. And if there's any additional people, I think Mark Hall was on that email originally too. And I'll add Chief Forbush as a courtesy, and send that email out as to the direction of the board. Roll call vote.
roll call vote.
What was that?
Should this be a roll call vote?
Yes, we are doing a roll call vote.
Okay,
Thank you very much for your point of clarification, Trustee Lappin. Roll call.
Trustee Lappin,
Yes.
Clerk Palovich, yes. Treasurer Ellery Summers,
Yes.
Trustee Kroll,
Yes.
Trustee Dunkel,
Yes.
Trustee Polly,
Yes.
Supervisor Skibby.
Yes. I will send out an email on behalf of the Charter Township of Alpena Board and Fire Department as to the direction that we will be moving. Last and not least is, could I actually have those printouts of the, we have a break in weather, and as of this afternoon, I was contacted by Kurt Gagne at the Road Commission. Given consideration that their meeting is next week, I believe, he asked if I would be willing to, and I knew I was going to get grief from a clerk and a treasurer, bring forward last minute additions to the agenda. These are road agreements. There's 4 of them in total. All of these agreements are for ditching and draining, and I will go through the project and costs associated with these 4 projects. The first one is Greenwood Street, which is a short little 1-block offshoot of Gutchess on 23 North. It's 1,100 linear feet of, this is, our township share would be $1,369. Next one is Walmsley Road, which is actually just off of Gutchess, in between Gutchess and 23. And it would be 1,100 feet at a township share of $1,643. Those two are actually surfacing because the water level is so high. They have to add some material so it stays above water level on Long Lake. This next project is the largest and been a huge concern, is Misery Bay Road, which is 1,900 feet east of North Point Shores. Our township share of ditching and tree work to divert water from 2 different swamps to the west to Isaacson's Bay is at $15,000.
Ooh.
The next is Belore Road. It is 1,150 feet west of Truckee, then west 800 feet north, for a total length of 800 feet. This is draining and ditching at a township share of $9,000. So if I want to do some quick math, 15.
$27,012.
$27,012. Our wonderful treasurer, Ellery Summers, was doing math on the flip side. They have crews that they're starting to call back, and with the ditching issues on the 2 Belore and Misery Bay Road. Misery Bay Road has cost both the township and the road commission a considerable amount of money. And I think what we're going to see moving forward, especially with Lake Huron levels rising, is that these low-lying roads need to have road work done. But before they can ever do any road work, you have to get the water away from the roads. But I would entertain a motion to move forward with all 4 projects presented at a total of $27,012 for 4 road projects. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns? Yes, Mr. Foley. Trustee Foley?
Is it in the budget for this?
Yes, sir.
And then I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve this and move forward.
I'll
We need to get
support.
that water out of there because it could get worse before it gets better.
I'll support.
We have a motion and we have support on the table. Are there any more discussion? Deputy Kroll, I can hear your radio.
Oh, sorry about that.
No worries. All I ask is you always be safe. If there's no other discussion, roll call vote, please.
Clerk Palovich, yes. Treasurer Ellery Summers.
Yes.
Trustee Kroll.
Yeah.
Trustee Dunkel.
Yes.
Trustee Polly.
Yes,
Trustee Lappin.
Yes.
Supervisor Skibby.
Yes. Motion passed. At this point in time, I will entertain a motion to go into closed session to discuss attorney-client privilege water litigation.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion on the table. Is there support?
I'll support.
Polly? Okay, Mr. Reinhardt, you have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Ross.
Do you have to call the attorney?
They're gonna be calling in.
I'm gonna use it.
Yep.
Do you want that front door locked?
No, I don't think anybody's coming in. We have,
Should we do a voice vote?
no, we have do we have a motion on the table to go into closed
I
session?
made a motion. It was supported by
Okay.
Norm Polly.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All right.
All right.
Motion passed. We are in closed session, 7:15 PM.
Take the